Seconds. Guidance internal. 13, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8. Ignition sequence start. Engines on. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All engines running. Launch commit. Liftoff. We have liftoff at 9:34 a.m.
The Dennis Miller Show. 866-509-7268.
Hey, folks. Welcome back to the Dennis Miller Show. I am he, basking in the glorious wake of modest achievement. Joining us now, one of my favorite minds, Thomas Sowell. He's written an essay called Trickle Theory and Tax Cuts for the Rich, which is now available in paperback. I would also tell you that his book, Basic Economics, which I've read because I did not have a great knowledge of economics and wanted a basic, is the Gray's Anatomy of the Body Fiscal, and I highly encourage you to read that too. Dr. Sowell, how are you?
Fine, thanks.
Tell us about the essay. Give us a cursory view.
Well, one of the things that we hear a lot about is that tax cuts are for the rich, and that the theory behind it is that the prosperity of the rich will trickle down to the poor. The only thing wrong with that is that, one, the tax cuts under Bush, for example, are across the board, and two, there is no such thing as a trickle-down theory. And I say that as someone who spent the first decade of his career specializing in the history of economic thought. And not only did I never find any such theory, you can't find it in Joseph Schumpeter's 1,200-page thesis on the subject. And some years ago, I defied anybody in my newspaper column to quote one economist of any school of thought who had ever said any such thing. No one has ever come up with anyone.
So you're saying, and this is, like I said, you're sort of my guru on these issues. I've always thought, well, if people who are business owners and wealthy people are doing well, that eventually they will spend that money. And I maybe trickle down was too simplistic a term, but I always did think that it would be good for the economy. Your assertion is that it not really? Or?
No. My assertion is that there is no such theory. I mean, one may believe whatever one wishes, but there is no such theory, and so those who are fighting against it are fighting against a straw man. The real argument for tax cuts, and this goes all the way back to the Woodrow Wilson administration, is that when you raise tax rates beyond a certain level, people simply put their money in tax shelters, and especially that's true in the upper income brackets where they have a lot of cash over and beyond their living expenses. And so that you can raise the tax rate to a level such that you collect less revenue than you did at the lower rates. And by the same token, if the tax rates are that high and you bring down the rates, then you collect more revenue. I mean, startlingly more. For example, when the capital gains tax was reduced in 1997, there were great cries the government's going to lose revenue. The revenue from capital gains taxes shot up after the rate was brought down.
All right, then what is the backstory on that? Why, when capital gains taxes are high, and, what do businessmen do? They just don't get into the market, or what?
Oh, they buy tax-exempt securities, which usually pay less than they could get in the market, but they net more money from it.
Right.
So that as you raise the rates, and I mentioned some of the data from the the late teens of the 20th century, that as they raised the rates on millionaires started disappearing from the tax rolls. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I think at one time, and the numbers were something like over 200 people were making $1 million a year. That's $1 million in 1918 money, which is huge. And that fell to about 21 people by 1921. After they brought the tax rate down, suddenly there are 207 people reporting taxable incomes of over $1 million. Naturally, the government cleans up at that, and that the revenues go up. And not only do the rich pay more money absolutely to the government than before, they paid a higher percentage of all taxes after the cuts. So the phrase "tax cuts for the rich" is a political slogan. But it has no relationship to reality.
Well, it sounds like in researching this small tome, trickle-down theory and tax cuts for the rich, which, by the way, I believe is a paperback by the Hoover Press.
Yes.
It sounds like you did, to distill it down, incredible research if you were going all the way back to the 20s. Do you see any interesting through lines beyond the equation that you've just served up to us over that 90-year span?
Well, this happened not only during the Coolidge administration. Even Woodrow Wilson, at the end of his term, was saying Congress should take a second look at these high tax rates because, beyond some point, they're not going to bring in revenue. John F. Kennedy made the same argument in 1962. He pointed out that because people can escape taxation by going into tax-exempt securities and other things, too much of our country's investment is going into places where they're not producing any increase in output. Mm-hmm. And so his argument was the same as that made during the Coolidge administration. Cut the rate so we can get more revenue.